Fox Sports 1380 studio.
I guess Aaron Rodgers also got immunized against winning in the postseason.
There you go.
3rd and 5. Pass is caught. Lazard. Touchdown. There it is. History for Aaron Rodgers on Christmas Day at Lambeau. Career touchdown pass number 443.
Since that long ago, far away Super Bowl run, he's now 7-9 in the postseason. 7-9.
Rodgers has time. Lets it go. Lazard. He's got it. And then lost it and has it again for the touchdown.
Breaking news out of Green Bay, and we now have clarity on the Aaron Rodgers situation. He's going to stay with the Packers.
It's The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton.
Sometimes we laugh and sometimes we cry, but I guess you know now. Baby, I took a half and she took the whole thing. Slow down. Baby, we took a trip, now we on your block and it's like a ghost town. Baby, where did these be at when they said they doing all this and all that?
It is The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380. Thank you all so much for tuning in. See my friend Pat Vallejo already commenting on there. Good afternoon, Pat. Good afternoon, everybody that is tuned into the show. It is our Friday afternoon, so you know what time it is. It's time for The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380. I see Cynthia Russell is also watching along with my dude, Optimus Prime, Don Tipton. Thank you all so much for the support. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, Fox Sports 1380, the iHeartRadio app. You can get the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google, all the places that you download your podcasts. Thank you so much. If you can, like the page, share the page. Let's grow the audience. Let's see what we can do to make the show the best show it can possibly be. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. All the stuff that's been going on in the world of sports. The NFL, obviously, always going to be the driving force around sports. Where would we be during this time frame if not for the NFL and maybe just maybe a little bit of Major League Baseball? Let's get into it. It's the opening tip.
It's time for the opening tip.
The tip was just flat out sensational.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's game on.
It is the opening tip, Fox Sports 1380 on The Tipping Point. My dude Dan Ornelas asking, did it snow today? It seems like it did, but I already see the sun coming out, the weird weather that is El Paso. I sent a text to my friends that are up in Connecticut, and I told them nothing says spring break quite like snow in El Paso. It's the weird weather patterns that we're having, but this, ultimately not a weather show. I'm glad that my dude Dan Ornelas is tuned in right now because he is a huge Denver Broncos fan. Prior to our slight hiatus that we had from Fox Sports 1380, Dan actually contributed to the show during one of our draft coverages, talking about the needs that the Denver Broncos had. And the one thing that he always mentioned was a quarterback. And just like that, the Denver Broncos have themselves a quarterback. Now, they make a trade. They go out there. They get Russell Wilson from the, I was going to say the Seattle Supersonics. Wow. From the Seattle Seahawks. And there's kind of a debate on who's going to win that trade, right? Because Seattle is going to get Russell Wilson. I think they're also getting like a draft pick. It's like a terrible draft pick. But this is what, or Denver rather, is getting Russell Wilson. Seattle is getting 2 first-round draft picks. The number 9th pick, so a top 10 draft pick already. Dan Ornelas also mentioning that he was dead wrong on Drew Lock. I tried telling you, my dude, I didn't want to bring that up. I know that has to be a sore point for you. At Dano Sports on Twitter. You can check out all the stuff that he's putting out there as well. But man, Drew Lock, just an absolute bust. But Denver trading away 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks. I believe a 5th-round draft pick is in there as well, along with, a couple of players, 3 players, none really great. The one, though, that I think is going to hurt Denver the most is Noah Fant. Well, obviously, the questions are going to come up. Who won this trade? Who lost this trade? All that good stuff. And on Undisputed with Shannon and Skip, this is what they had to say.
Skip, this is a quarterback league, and the Broncos weren't going anywhere. They had 11 starting quarterbacks since Peyton Manning decided to hang it up. Their problem was scoring. It wasn't stopping people from scoring. But in order to win in this league, you have got to produce points. They got $24, $27 million under the cap. So they can go out and be a major player, get a pass rusher, get a guy like a Von Miller or who knows, a Chandler Jones or even a Bobby Wagner. But you need that, Skip. You see what's in the AFC. Just in that division. You got Mahomes, you got Herbert, and you got Derek Carr.
Yeah.
The AFC is loaded. The West is loaded. I don't know if we've ever seen a division like this yet with the quarterback play to this level. You got Mahomes, Herbert, and Russell Wilson.
Don't sleep on Derek Carr because he's pretty good.
He is.
So there you go. Even though Shannon Sharpe had a hard time getting the name Derek Carr out of there, with either way, he makes a good point. There's a lot of cap space that Denver has. There have been rumors about them getting Von Miller back. Von Miller has shown interest in wanting to go back to Denver. There's also the possibility that they go out and they get middle linebacker Bobby Wagner, who they've showed interest in. It would be great for him to follow his teammate Russell Wilson after being released by the Seattle Seahawks. That, of course, was the audio on Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Our Undisputed Craft House wants to remind everybody that it's March. Ash Wednesday has passed, so you know what that means. It's meatless and steakless streaks of Fridays for those who are observing. And Undisputed Craft House at 1881 Saul Kleinfeld has your back. They've got shrimp quesadillas, shrimp subs, and the burger of the month this month, the Slammin' Salmon Burger. A salmon patty with purple cabbage, spicy tartar sauce, lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles. What more do you need to satisfy your taste buds? Remember, Undisputed Craft House has a new beer every single week, and we will be trying one a little bit later on in the show that they've got, once again, a new beer, a new craft beer every week at Undisputed Craft House. And, of course, they are the home of the Just the Tips Network's newest show, Stealth Mode, with the Sun City Stealth. Check us out every Thursday, 6:30 to 7 p.m., and enjoy the Wings Day deals that they have on Thursday. Going back over to what we were talking about with the NFL, the Denver Broncos, they got all that cap space. They have the targets in mind as well. But is that enough to make them the favorite in the AFC West? And that's going to be a hard sell for someone like me, someone that loves Patrick Mahomes, someone that has been following, the progression of football and all that good stuff. But the one thing that I would say, this makes a splash for Denver. Yes, Denver has a good young receiving core. Yes, Denver, to me, has a much better running game than what the Seattle Seahawks had. The biggest issue with me and Denver in this case, or Russell Wilson in this case, is that he's leaving a really good receiving core, and I mean like borderline great receiving core with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett that he had up in Seattle. This feels like a lateral move. And then, of course, if you're Denver, you have to wonder what the future is going to hold. Those first-round draft picks are extremely important, and this is coming from somebody that doesn't even really care about the NFL draft, but just having that collateral is really important. And I get it right now, like you feel like the window to win is right now because you have a top 5 defense. I think they were number 3 in the NFL when it came to points per game given up. They've got a good defense, but as we know, defense doesn't translate from year to year. Dan Ornella saying that they're still not the best in the West. They have definitely closed the gap, though, in the AFC. And it says the impact of trading away picks won't be felt until next year. They've still managed to keep a second round and 2 third-round picks this year. Denver got a great deal. The Seahawks need to capitalize, too. And that's what I was going to say. I don't think there's such a thing as a winner and a loser in this trade because Denver got who they wanted, which is a franchise quarterback in Russell Wilson. Yes, he's had a little bit of issues over the last couple of years staying healthy. We did see the big drop-off that he had, from the finger injury last year. But ultimately, I believe that that's because he came back too early, Russell Wilson did. I keep confusing him with Russell Westbrook because I want to talk about Russell Westbrook, but I'll do that in a little bit. I feel like both teams won here. Both teams are addressing needs. Seattle is trying to rebuild. You would have thought that they would have done the rebuild process by getting rid of Pete Carroll and then some of the other players, but they kept Pete Carroll. I don't understand that aspect of what the Seattle Seahawks are doing, but hopefully they get to do something with it, right? They traded away their first-round draft pick for this year. It's going over to the New York Jets in the Jamal Adams trade that happened about a year or two ago, right? So to me, Seattle needs to find a way to capitalize on this. And maybe what they're hoping is if we just stock up on defense once again, we have ourselves a solid defense. Maybe Drew Lock can be a game manager, if that, and help us just make it to the playoffs, and then whatever happens, happens. Maybe that's the way that Seattle's looking at it. Maybe it's not a true rebuild. Because to me, if it's a true rebuild and you're Seattle, you have to get rid of DK Metcalf and try to get as much as you can from him. A franchise receiver like DK Metcalf on his rookie deal still is a lot of capital for them to try to capitalize on before they have to ultimately pay the man. But again, there's not a winner or a loser in this. I feel like both teams won whenever it comes to this trade. I want to know what everybody's thoughts are as well. Will Russell Wilson make a big difference in the AFC West? I still have my doubts there. Like Kansas City to me is still a better team. If the Chargers can get Khalil Mack, and it seems like they did get Khalil Mack for a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick, then ultimately, like, that might boost them up. Russell Wilson, to me, 33 years old, probably the third best quarterback in that division, but has experience that the other two in Herbert and Derek Carr don't have, winning a Super Bowl, being that guy to carry a team. And as we know with Seattle, they're always in games. There's no such thing as Russell Wilson getting blown out of a game. So it's going to make the Denver Broncos a really fun team to watch and a really interesting team to watch. As for Seattle, I feel like it's going to be a hard couple of years for them. And then ultimately we'll see kind of how the draft pays out and these picks plan out for them moving forward. Another thing that happened in the NFL as we continue here on the opening tip. I turned my music off for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I'm not too smart. But another thing that happened here, the Packers re-signing Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how I feel about this whole Aaron Rodgers re-signing. I don't feel like it's going to be beneficial to the Packers at all. And a lot of people are going to say, well, Tip, it's because you're a Green Bay Packers and an Aaron Rodgers hater. I don't hate on Aaron Rodgers. I hate the narrative that surrounds Aaron Rodgers. I hate the narrative that he is the greatest quarterback to have ever played this game. Whenever statistically he's not up there, wins-wise he's not up there. Like, talent, yeah, maybe, but we've all seen a whole bunch of talented quarterbacks that can thread the needle. Right? Like, yes, the dude is a great quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers signing at 38 years old, a 4-year, $200 million deal with $153 million guaranteed. First reported by his friend Pat McAfee. Then Aaron Rodgers comes out and says, no, I haven't signed anything. More than likely, Pat McAfee and all the other insiders in the NFL are not going to just put out this information if it wasn't somewhat true. There has to be some truth there. Aaron Rodgers is just doing his thing where he loves to be in the news and all that good stuff. But the Packers re-signing Aaron Rodgers to a 4-year contract extension. They're already $41 million over the cap. This doesn't necessarily help them out whenever it comes to down the road or even this year with trying to re-sign other players. They're going to put the franchise tag on Devontae Adams, which they should. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what are you losing? That's an offensive lineman that you can't re-sign, or an offensive lineman that you can't bring in. That's a defensive player that you can't bring in. And that's multiple positions that's now impacted by one guy and a $50 million a year contract at 38 years old, lasting another 4 years on that. I'll give a shout out to my dude, Adrian Zamudio, who tuned in right now. What's up, my guy? Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Like the show, share the show, do all that stuff. Let's grow the audience here in West Texas and surrounding areas. But again, Aaron Rodgers signing this deal handicaps what the Packers have. His whole dispute with the Green Bay Packers was that this team wasn't good enough for him to win a Super Bowl. Despite the fact that they've made it to the playoffs 3 straight years in a row, they went to 2 out of the last 3 NFC championships, and his performances in the playoffs haven't been all that great, as Skip Bayless has said in the past on Undisputed, the clip that we played a little while ago. Aaron Rodgers signing this contract, to me, is such a bad deal for the Green Bay Packers. Not just because of the money, but because of the draft pick that they wasted on Jordan Love. You don't draft a first-round quarterback if you don't plan on playing him within 3 years. This was supposed to be the time where Aaron Rodgers leaves, Jordan Love takes over the team, and then you find out what you got with this kid, right? Because I don't think the sample size we got from him last year is enough to say, oh, okay, this guy's going to be great or he's going to be bad. It's not enough of a sample size. It's the same issue that we have with Tua. No one knows because the sample size wasn't really that great. Now we're going to start to find things out, right? Or you're supposed to. But Green Bay wasted that pick because they could have gone out and got other players with that pick. Like they could have helped out their defense. They could have helped out their offense with that. Instead, they go and they draft a quarterback because of all the drama that's been surrounding Aaron Rodgers and the stuff that you don't know, right? And you have no clue what his plans were at that point in time. And then here he goes signing a contract that extends him out for another 4 years that's going to handcuff the team on what they're able to do. And you wasted a first-round draft pick trying to get his replacement. You have zero trade value in Jordan Love right now because he hasn't seen the field, and he's not going to see the field with Aaron Rodgers being there. So to me, what Green Bay did by re-signing Aaron Rodgers was they just bent to Aaron Rodgers' will. He got exactly what he wanted, which was to be on the front cover of all of the sports stories and all that good stuff because he is very, very much a diva. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers getting his bag. I will never hate on anybody that gets all the money that they possibly can. Adrian Zamudio saying he's getting ready to go to work. It's going to be a long shift. He's going to be there from 2 in the afternoon to 11:30 at night or maybe even noon. Hey, tell us where you're at. Maybe people can go visit you at work. I mentioned a little bit earlier, the Chargers trading for Khalil Mack, a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick. Great move by the Chargers, helping out that defense. They've got all the weapons on offense. They've got a really good team on offense. I mean, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, I think they just re-signed him as well. They had to focus in on that defense, and a dude like Khalil Mack, yes, he was hurt last year. I think week 7 was the last game that he played, but Khalil Mack, an absolute beast. That's going to help out the Chargers. Then come the weird trades, right? The Washington Commanders trading for Carson Wentz. Is it an upgrade over Taylor Heineke? Maybe. Does it get you to win the division? No. Does it help you do anything that makes real, actual noise whenever it comes to just doing anything in the league? No. But you're bringing in him and his huge contract and Carson Wentz to a team that is just absolute dumpster sauce. And I have no clue what it is that the Washington Commanders think that they're doing, but that's not a good move for them. Dan Ornella saying it's Super Bowl or bust. That's the only way it works for Aaron Rodgers. I get that. I 100% understand that. But you've got so much money tied up in your team now that it goes directly to you that you cannot address the needs that this team needs. And to me, it was offensive line help. Aaron Rodgers, it felt like, was always under duress last year. It's help on defense. It's maybe getting another wide receiver to kind of take the load off of Devontae Adams. Yes, Alan Lazard is okay, but he's more of like that third guy. You should have enough money to go out there and get the pieces that you need to become a Super Bowl contending team. We saw this team last year in the playoffs against San Francisco. When you have a team that has a good pass rush and they create pressure on Aaron Rodgers, this team can do literally nothing. I think what's ultimately going to happen for Green Bay is they're going to trade Aaron Jones because he does have some value right now. He is making a decent amount of money, but they also have A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon hasn't, secured that bag yet like Aaron Jones has, and is a bigger power back, more in the mold of a Derrick Henry. So maybe you trade Aaron Jones and maybe you get somebody that can kind of offset his cap hit and maybe is a decent wide receiver. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm making phone calls right now. Maybe you get rid of Zeke somehow and do things like that. But ultimately, I have no clue where Aaron Jones is going to go. If I'm Miami was one of those places. Maybe Miami makes a push for him, and you've got yourself a pretty decent running game there because you've got Jalen Waddle, you've got the tight end Gesicki, and then it kind of helps out Tua as well. It gives him another safety valve there. So teams should be on the phone right now to try to get Aaron Jones from Green Bay if Green Bay's not on the phone shopping Aaron Jones around right now, because that would be the smartest thing for that team to do, for that franchise to do. Ultimately, try to get out from under that and help the team out by themselves as well. Kirk Cousins also possibly on the move, rumored to be on the move. As of this recording, hasn't been moved just yet, but it seems the Indianapolis Colts, who just got rid of Carson Wentz, are looking for themselves to get a quarterback who might be able to get them over the hump. Kirk Cousins gets a bad rap. I will just go out there and say it right now. He gets a bad rap. Minnesota was terrible on defense last year. They have a good run game. They have a good pass game. Kirk Cousins, I don't think, is going to be the reason why a team wins a Super Bowl, but he's ultimately not the worst quarterback in the NFL. Is he an upgrade over Carson Wentz? You bet your ass he is. So to me, Indianapolis going after Kirk Cousins would be a great move on their behalf. They won't have to get rid of Jonathan Taylor because they obviously, Minnesota's not going to want to replace Dalvin Cook. So it just depends on what Minnesota wants in return for Kirk Cousins. But if I'm Indianapolis, I do all I can outside of trading Jonathan Taylor or some of our good offensive line, because they've got a really good offensive line in Indianapolis. Outside of trading any of them, nobody is safe from being traded if I can get a guy like Kirk Cousins. Whenever we come back, though, on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380, the best coach with the most wins in the history of the NBA is being disrespected left and right by the mainstream media. Why? On Fox Sports 1380. All right, y'all, getting ready for segment 2. Thank you for tuning in. Coming back in 3, 2.
From the Fox Sports 1380 studio.
And the final seconds set to tick off. San Antonio is back on top once again. The Spurs are the 2014 NBA champions.
They were up 3 going to the 4th and take care of business. Pop's going to tie Don Nelson tonight. That's exactly right. For the all-time winningest coach in NBA history, regular season wins 1,335. Pop and his longtime friend Don Nelson even.
I can't wait for him to talk about it.
It's the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton.
In the club, party rock. Looking for your girl, she on the jock. Now stop when we in the spot. Booty moving weight like she on the block. With a drink, I got to know.
It is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380. You heard it right there on Bally Sports, the home of the San Antonio Spurs. Coach Greg Popovich tying Don Nelson as the winningest coach of all time. This is a thing that I don't understand that's being kind of floated out there. Whenever you talk about the greatest coaches of all time, why is Greg Popovich's name, and maybe it's just me being biased, so if you're not a Spurs fan, or even if you are a Spurs fan, maybe you can help me out with this. Why is Greg Popovich's name never mentioned whenever it comes to the greatest coaches of all time? Because you got Phil Jackson, you've got people even mention like Pat Riley, you've had Red Auerbach, like people like that always get mentioned as the greatest coach of all time. I even heard people saying Eric Spoelstra over Greg Popovich, which blows my mind. And the reason why this is so impressive to me is because it's not like Greg Popovich was super young whenever he became a head coach in the NBA. It took him 2,029 games to win his 1,300 or 1,335 games, right? To put that in perspective, he tied Don Nelson. Don Nelson has that same amount of wins, 1,335, but did it in 369 more games than what Greg Popovich has coached, which basically equates to a little over 4 seasons more is what it took Don Nelson to get to that level. Destiny's saying because the Spurs aren't a flashy team, so everyone associated with it isn't blown up. I don't know if I agree with that because Tim Duncan, unanimously the greatest power forward of all time. Easily on a lot of lists for people, top 10, top 5, just depending on where you want to put Tim Duncan on that. Adrian Broad is saying, because we focus on pointless NBA storylines like Ben Simmons fit with Brooklyn. Shout out to Pop, hashtag the GOAT. I appreciate my dude Adrian Broad is tuning in. You can check him out on Sports Talk. He's also doing a bunch of stuff with sorry about that. I was going to mention all the things you're doing with the Miners. Great season, Miner Talk. You can check that out, 600 ESPN El Paso. I can mention it because, once again, I pay for this time on Fox Sports 1380. So until you pay me for it, I will mention whatever the hell I want to mention, because ultimately it's my show and I call the shots here. So boom. Once again, though, I like that, because that's 100% the truth. Is we've gone away from focusing on greatness to just looking more at the storylines. And I'm glad that Adrian brought that up, because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Whenever we look at the NBA now, there's hardly a connection to the fans. The fans hardly want to, be a part or be associated with the NBA the way that it's constructed at this current point in time. Because of player empowerment, and you have players moving left and right, you got a guy like LeBron, the biggest star in the NBA, going to LA saying, this is where I want to end my career. Give me the power to build a team. Builds the team, doesn't like the way that it's constructed because he built it that way, throws his GM under the bus and Rob Pelinka saying, oh, you should have made moves at the trade deadline that would have gotten us a terrible contract and maybe a shooter and gotten rid of a first-round draft pick in the future for this team so that we can possibly try to make a run at the NBA title. Now that you've done that, I, LeBron James, no longer want to play for your team. Then you look at the Ben Simmons situation in Philadelphia. You look at the situation that James Harden was in both Houston and Brooklyn. You have players forcing their way out and kind of alienating fan bases. That's just basically what this is. Kevin Durant in Golden State and Oklahoma City. Like that's what we've seen from the biggest stars in the NBA. My dude Optimus Prime saying that was a bit aggressive. Might be a bit aggressive. I stand by it. It's what I do. But anyway, just looking at the way that all of this kind of goes down with the NBA, you lose sight of what the storylines in the NBA are, right? Like, nobody would know that the best player in the NBA right now is Nikola Jokic. And he's having one of the best statistical seasons for a big man in the history of the NBA. But that gets overshadowed because what's, all over Fox Sports, what's all over ESPN is Ben Simmons. The Brooklyn Nets beat the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, I said what I said. It's 100%. That's right. I said what I said. I stand by what I say. I will nail that into the heads. And I sincerely doubt that the people that are in charge of all that are listening to my silly ass show anyway. Like, let's be honest. But anyways, going back to the whole storyline narrative, right? You wouldn't know about the great season that the Miami Heat are having right now, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. A lot of people don't realize that. Overcoming a string of injuries that they've had. Jimmy Butler's been hurt. Bam Adebayo's been hurt. I think Tyler Hero's the only player that's played every game for them. But Duncan Robinson, a whole bunch of players on the Miami Heat have been injured, and somehow, some way, they're still in first place in the Eastern Conference. Look at what the Phoenix Suns are doing. The Phoenix Suns, the first team to clinch a playoff seed in the Western Conference in the entire NBA. They have 53 wins on the season to 13 losses, having one of the greatest seasons in NBA history are the Phoenix Suns right now, overcoming a hand injury for the last month that has sidelined Chris Paul, who is ultimately their team MVP. But again, none of these storylines get mentioned because we're too busy, and I'm guilty of it as well, just being drawn into, oh, LeBron James said this, or Russell Westbrook said this. Russell Westbrook, mad at the LA Lakers fans. I don't want to take my family to the LA Lakers games because they're making fun of my last name. They're calling me Westbrick. That is arguably the softest thing that you can hear from an athlete, right? There's, I can't believe the fans are making fun of me. If you don't want the fans to make fun of you, perform. And then that's what they did yesterday. The LA Lakers performed. Russell Westbrook, one of his best games as an LA Laker, 30 points, 80 boards, or 8 boards, 10 dimes, 1 turnover. LeBron James gets a triple-double. And at the end of the day, they lost to the worst team in the Western Conference, the second worst team in the NBA, and the Houston Rockets, because that team was constructed so poorly. The LA Lakers, yes, it should be a storyline that team was, well, you know, all the expectations were on that team. But how does Ben Simmons fit in Brooklyn? We have no clue. How does James Harden fit in Philadelphia? We've seen some pretty good games out of them. They got blown out yesterday, 129-120. None of that stuff really matters at the end of the day. It matters about the wins and losses and all that, you know, all of that stuff that is actually the stuff that fans care about. I don't think fans care about anymore the way that a team fits. I don't think fans are caring about that LeBron James is the GM de facto in LA. As I see my dude Chris Madrid is watching right now. He and I had a nice conversation yesterday where I told him if the LA Lakers win a championship this year, he can, you know, come on and host a show all by himself. Chris Madrid over there, Undisputed Craft House, great friends of the show. I mentioned them a little bit earlier. I will have the beer, the peanut butter beer here in just a little bit as well, getting into the next segment. Now, the NBA, whenever you look at it, has kind of lost its way because you have that storyline of Coach Greg Popovich tying Don Nelson as the greatest, you know, the most wins of all time by a coach, yet nothing gets mentioned about him. What is Greg Popovich's legacy, right? You're talking about a team that has won multiple NBA, 5 NBA titles in my time frame since 1999 till now. 5 NBA titles. This was a team that is, constantly in the playoffs, 22 straight years in the postseason. Yet for whatever reason, year after year, that team that was consistently overlooked. No team in the NBA has won more titles in that time frame than the San Antonio Spurs. The LA Lakers have won 5. The Spurs have, well, I guess the Lakers won 6 because I forget about that bubble one. That bubble one shouldn't count, but whatever. I'm just some dude. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. The Lakers are currently the 9th seed. Those that have kind of stayed away from the NBA don't know this right now, but the NBA has a play-in tournament to get into the playoffs. The last 4 seeded teams, which is 7, 8, 9, 10, those teams play a tournament against each other to try to make it into their seeding to make it to the NBA playoffs. Currently, right now, if the playoffs started, the LA Lakers are the 9th seed, and they would play the 7th seed in the tournament, but they're only 3 games ahead of Portland, who's had a terrible season, the San Antonio Spurs, who have had a horrible season compared to their standard, which is why it should be a bigger deal that Greg Popovich won his 1,335th game. But hey, who am I to talk about all that stuff, right? If the playoffs started today, the LA Lakers would be on the outside looking in. I'm going to give you my bold prediction. I forgot to give you my bold prediction last segment as well, so we'll have 2 bold predictions. My first bold prediction, even with the addition of Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos will miss the playoffs. We'll mention that. We'll follow that. We'll see how that goes. It's a long-term one. And then this one, the Lakers currently the 9th seed. The game against Houston was a game that they should have won. They will not make the playoffs. They'll make the play-in tournament, but they will not make the playoffs. That's simple. Well, I'll give a shout out to our friends over at 3 Missions Brewery. They are a sponsor of the Tipping Point. 3 Missions Brewery, 10179 Socorro Road, down in Socorro. It's a great place to go. They've got $6 pours on Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, right around the corner. They got $6 pours all St. Patrick's Day. It's going to be $6 beers all day long on St. Patrick's Day. They've got 2 new beers. One of them, the Centennial Blondie, which I'm going to go check that out. I do love the blonde beers over there at 3 Missions Brewery. And, of course, again, the $6 Sundays that they have and the $6 St. Patrick's Day that they have as well. The 1-year anniversary coming up right down the road. I can't wait to see what's in store for them. It's going to be a big surprise. You know, I'm going to be down there at 3 Missions Brewery getting turned up because it's what I do best. But you can visit them online, 3missionsbrewery.com, and follow them on all social media pages at 3 Missions Brewery. I bring that up because my dude Travis mentioned something to me a little bit earlier today. Now, I am one of these guys, like, I love sports. Everyone that's been a part of this show knows I absolutely love sports. I'm a weirdo when it comes to it, but I found myself kind of on the outsides now of college basketball. Like, I'll watch a big game. I was wrong last week. I thought UNC would lose to Duke. UNC made me happy and beat Duke. Those that don't know, I'm a huge Jordan fan. I was born on Jordan's birthday. I love North Carolina basketball. But the NCAA tournament right around the corner, you already have teams punching their ticket. UTEP didn't get to make it in. That was going to be one of my bold predictions. I got that one right. UTEP men's basketball not making it to the NCAA tournament. I was wrong whenever I said UTEP women's basketball would make it to the NCAA tournament because they had just a horrible, horrible second half of the season. But Kansas State head coach Bruce Weber has left the university. Bruce Weber was there for about a decade, had 3 losing seasons this year, but is known for being a part of the ethics committee, which is a weird thing whenever you think about that the NCAA would have an ethics committee, because it seems like they are the most unethical of all of the sports branches that people follow, the major sports branches. He got a little bit of notoriety because he said he's not going to cut his hair until there is a rule of more fair recruiting practices in college sports, college athletics in general. The reason why this became a thing is because a few years ago, the FBI was investigating college basketball. Coaches like Rick Pitino, Bill Self, I think Coach K was a part of this investigation as well. Rick Pitino, like a whole bunch of guys that were out there because shoe companies were basically paying a bunch of money to these schools for these schools to recruit basketball players. The investigation comes, it goes. None of the head coaches that were involved are charged with anything. And you have player or individuals like a guy named Merle Code. He just wrote a book called The Black Market, who was an executive for Adidas that is spending the next 9 months in a federal penitentiary because of the role that he played in helping these players get some money from the university, paying on behalf of these players to get the money for the shoe deals and all that good stuff that they have in college basketball. Part of the dirty underbelly of college basketball, right? Come 2020, 2021, you have now the NIL. And the NIL, for those that don't know, is name, image, and likeness. College players can make money off of their name. The schools aren't paying them, but a college athlete now can go out and get a sponsorship. Just like I can get a sponsorship, I can sponsor a college athlete if I so chose to do so. That's basically the exact same thing that Merle Code was doing, where he was paying on behalf of Adidas for this athlete. So now it's not an illegal, I guess it never was really illegal, but it was kind of unfair the way that they were going about recruiting some of these players. Bill Self, we've seen it left and right. He had to have a player go play in Europe to just get away from the scandal. But the NIL to me has made it harder now. And it's widened the gap between the teams that are great, like the Alabamas, and the teams like a UTEP. Whenever you look at what happened just this year, player in El Paso, Texas, KJ Lewis, the kid is good, has an opportunity to go play in the NBA. He's really damn good. Decides that he wants to sign with Arizona, then that's perfectly fine. And maybe more than likely, even if UTEP had the same amenities that Arizona had, he'd probably sign with Arizona. But whenever you peel it back, because a lot of people are like, man, like how come he doesn't stay here at home? The same thing with a guy like Aaron Dumas. I was talking to Chris Madrid about this the other day. How does a guy like Aaron Dumas from El Paso, America's high school, I saw the kid, win on a hook and ladder against Eastwood in the first game of the season, I think his junior year. How do you have a kid like that go to New Mexico, say, I don't want to be at New Mexico anymore, then transfer over to Washington? It's because of NIL. It's because there's more to offer. The boosters of those schools have more to offer these players. I hate to make it that cut and dry, but that's what it is. NIL is a good thing for the players because they get to make money off of who they are. They're not getting paid by the school. They'll never get paid by the school and the billion-dollar industry that is college athletics. But as long as boosters have more money at the bigger schools, the UTEPs, the New Mexico States, the maybe UT San Antonio, those schools like that are always going to suffer. And unfortunately for our guy, Bruce Weber at K-State, his hair is going to be super long. He's going to be a hippie the next stop that he's at, because that there will never more will there be a fair practice when it comes to recruiting in college athletics. Whenever we come back on the tipping point with my Tipton Fox Sports 1380, we get into our tip picks of the week, and we talk a little more about the NFL, because again, the NFL never stops. All that and more on Fox Sports 1380. All right, y'all. We are getting ready for segment number 3. In 3, 2, 1.
You ready?
From the Fox Sports 1380 studio, it's The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton.
It is The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380. Thank you all so much for tuning into the show. Thank you for sharing the show, doing all that good stuff that you do to help grow the podcast and all of that as well. If you want to download the podcast, you can do so. We are on Apple iTunes. We're on the iHeartRadio app. We're on Spotify. We're on Google. We are literally all over the place. Wherever you get your podcast, all you have to do is search The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, and we will be there. Our latest episode, it'll be up tonight, 6 o'clock, following the show on the radio on Fox Sports 1380. Now, I had mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about the NFL. Before we do that, I was teasing it a little while ago. We're going to talk about one of the new craft beers over at Undisputed Craft House. Remember, every week, Undisputed Craft House has a new craft beer. We'll go ahead and pour this one. This is supposed to be a sour that tastes like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We will see exactly how that sour tastes. I can smell it right now. It smells absolutely amazing. I will finish pouring that in. That's a horrible pour, but I got to do it for time purposes because I cannot just sit here pouring and pouring and pouring on the show. Those that are watching on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook can see the way that this beer is. This is the Ingenious Brewing Company. Beer is creativity, it is science, and it is quality. Ingenious Brewing Company. This is the Smarty PB&J. So here we go. I'm going to try my first sip of this. I haven't had this before, so we'll see how it goes. Oh wow. Okay. Not great for an audio medium, the fact that you get to hear me drinking, but just know that is a really good beer. I am kind of blown away. It's got like a strawberry jelly taste to it. You can kind of taste the peanut butter as well. I know my friends over at Three Missions Brewery, they do amazing things with their beers as well. Rick over there had a cheesecake beer. Somehow, some way, you can taste the actual graham cracker of the cheesecakes. It amazes me what people can do with their beers and all that stuff, man. Like my mind is blown right now by that beer. That's a really good beer. Shout out to Ingenious Brewing Company. I'm gonna try. I might try all their beers, but check out Ingenious. Also check out our friends over at Three Missions Brewery, 10179 Socorro Road. Our friends over at Undisputed Craft House, 1881 Saul Kleinfeld. Did you know that Chuco-Mania is right around the corner? March 19th, a week from tomorrow, Chuco-Mania here in El Paso. It is a charity benefit benefiting Reach for the Star. There will be Lucha Libre wrestling from our friends over at Lucha League, a wing-eating competition that I will be the MC of. So definitely be out there. The Sun City Stealth will be out there as well. I see that Stephanie Brooke Aragon has tuned in as well. There's plenty of vendors. There's going to be a car show. It's going to be held at the Shack Wings and Brews, 4726 Woodrow Bean on the northeast side of El Paso. So go check it out. For more information, visit Chuco Barbos on Facebook or on Instagram, Lucha League at Lucha_League. And of course, our friend of the show, Frank Stone, will be taking on Minotauro in the squared circle, and it's going to be a ton of fun for everyone involved. Don't forget that I will be emceeing the wing eating competition. I'm going to be watching people eat as many wings as possible, and if there's a tie, we have a hot wing tiebreaker. Oh, that's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for that. That's going to be March 9th as well, or March 19th as well, a week from Saturday, a week from tomorrow. I also want to tell you about the Thrive 915 Mission Valley Family Festival Series. April Fool's Low and Slow Barbecue and Lowrider Show put up by our friends over at Thrive 915 and Economy Wholesale Grocers. featuring the 915 pop-up market. The event details are April 2nd from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the new Economy Wholesale Grocery Store at 411 North Zaragoza. Now, I drove by there because those that know me, I'm from Socorro. I'm from that Lower Valley area. I drove by there and I was surprised to see that it's in a place that I used to hold near and dear to my heart, a Kmart that was down there. And this building is absolutely beautiful. Tons of parking space. So join us April 2nd for the Low and Slow Barbecue and Lowrider Show by Thrive 915, Economy Wholesale Grocers, and 915 Pop-Up Market. They're also partnering with the Alzheimer's Association. They'll be raising funds by donating 20% of the ticket sales and the ticket prices. Kids 10 and under with an accompanying adult, free. 18 or 10 to 18 or over 65. Maybe you're a veteran, active duty. That's only $5. 18 to 64. Non-military, $10. Tickets will be available at the door, and they have a link coming soon as well. I will be one of the judges, along with my friend Chris Babcock from the El Paso Herald-Post and 6-time barbecue champion and co-owner of Red's Ramen Ya, Tim Burnett. We will be judging the commercial barbecue competition that they have coming up as well. And, of course, the Lowrider Show, car show showing up. It's going to be a fun event, April 2nd. If you want any more information, email thrive915foodfest@gmail.com for more information. It was a bad week for us, y'all. Under 500 once again whenever it came to our tip picks of the week. It's not been good, but you know what? We keep fighting. The tip picks of the week. We are 22, 23, and 1 on the season. Minnesota, an 8-point favorite over the Orlando Magic. Minnesota has been playing really well as of recently. They're on a 6-game win streak. They've won 8 out of their last 10 games. Karl Anthony Towns just absolutely dominating. On the other hand, you have Orlando, the worst record in the NBA. They have 17 wins, the least amount of wins. They're tied with the Houston Rockets on that one, but they have the most losses in the NBA, the first team to 50 losses, the Orlando Magic. You take the Minnesota Timberwolves all day on that one. The Detroit Pistons on the road at the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are a 14.5-point favorite. Jason Tatum is averaging 42 points a game in the month of March. He has been absolutely red hot on the court. The addition of Derek White gives the Boston Celtics and Ime Udoka another shooter. Boston dominating the Detroit Pistons. We're winning games this week, damn it. Next one, Knicks at Grizzlies. Memphis is going to win this one. The Knicks are going back to being the Knicks that we've known over the last couple of decades. This is a terrible team. And on top of that, they just lost Cam Reddish for the rest of the season. I think there's only 18, 19 games left, so it's not like a huge long time. But he is out with a shoulder injury. Memphis and Ja Morant all day long here. And the Suns over the Raptors. Phoenix has been red hot right now. The Suns scorching. I believe the Suns get the win in Toronto over the Toronto Raptors. I had mentioned my bold prediction a little bit earlier. UTEP missing the NCAA tournament. I got that right, but I was wrong because I said UTEP women's basketball would make it to the NCAA tournament. I do these bold predictions. I will always revisit these bold predictions because I believe that I shouldn't just be up here being a gas bag, that I should actually have a little bit of accountability and not just bloviate in front of a microphone because for whatever reason, I've been given that ability to do so. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton on Fox Sports 1380. Don't forget that we are presented by the Just the Tip Network every Thursday at Undisputed Craft House. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, we debuted our brand new show, Stealth Mode, with the Sun City Stealth. They have been awesome. They have been great supporters of The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, all the stuff that I've been doing. Going out there, Undisputed Craft House, 1881 Saul Kleinfeld. We are also brought to you by Three Missions Brewery at 10179 Socorro Road. And check me out next weekend at Chuco Mania, March 19th. And we'll see you all at the Low and Slow Barbecue Show and Barbecue's Lowrider Show, brought to you by Thrive 915. And I will see you all next week.